It's now 24 days to the commencement of a new 4-year tenure of the 16th President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the countdown is on. Thank you for joining us on the program. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. You can join the conversation online if you use the hashtag Inauguration Day. Now, President-elect Bola Tinubu has returned to Abuja after commissioning some projects in Rivers State, making it his first official visit to Rivers or of any kind after his victory at the poll on February 25th. A lot has been said about, the peace deal he seemed to have brokered between some political stakeholders in that part of the country. There's also certain statements in the area of indebtedness and expectation from those who had worked for him during the election. He cleared the air to insist that he is president-elect. There is nothing he can do where it comes to decision-making for now, until May 29 when he is inaugurated as president. But let's talk to correspondent Femi Akonde, who is in Abuja, for more updates on the president-elect's itinerary. It's been a busy couple of days for President-elect Bola Tinubu. Femi, what's the update with his itinerary as we speak?
Yes, indeed, Nifemi. He returns to Abuja after the 2-day visit to Port Harcourt, where he inaugurated some projects of Governor Nyesom Wike. And today he was at the Defense House briefly. He just spent a couple of minutes there, had some meetings and all of that before he left to pray, and then back to his residence, where he continues to receive visitors and dignitaries from all walks of life. Also holding meetings with people who will be forming a key part of his cabinet as soon as the administration is sworn in on the 29th of May. We know that he has been strategizing and consulting ahead of forming his administration as soon as he's sworn in. So it's been a busy few days for the president-elect, Nifemi.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of the highlights from his visit to Rivers State. Some would say beyond commissioning projects, there were a lot of political statements that were made, especially when you remember when one of the senators, looking forward to become Senate president, stood up to make a speech, and quite a number of senators-elect also stood behind him. What kind of body language did we read, and what do you think happened there?
Yes, and if the visit to Rivers has been making headlines. What the president-elect said, how he said it, the implications or meaning of what he said. People have been making different interpretations out of all what the president-elect did in Rivers State. And the contest for the position of President of Senate has become really intense. A lot of those interested in occupying that seat have been lobbying the president-elect. We have also seen them on the corridors of the presidential villa in Aso Rock to see President Muhammadu Buhari. They have been holding closed-door meetings with some top members of the party. Some of them have also even been consulting and lobbying the outgoing president of the Senate, the president of the 9th Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan. So, the senators are also making use of any platform. They're also leveraging it on any platform to show the kind of support they enjoy from the lawmakers, because whoever will become the president of the Senate will have to be popular first among his colleagues. And that would also indeed help that candidate when the party finally decides how the position of president of the Senate should be zoned. So, Godswill Akpabio coming out to give a remark, and that strong showing of senators coming to line up behind him also goes a long way to say the kind of support he enjoys. But in politics, you never can say the political situation in Nigeria is a very dynamic. Things can change at any time. Everyone is waiting for the president-elect and indeed the party, the All Progressives Congress, to point lawmakers in the direction they should go. We do not know if indeed Godswill Akpabio has the blessings of the president-elect or the party, but we also know that the president-elect has been reluctant in making public statements or kind of endorsing any particular candidate. He said all he wants is just deepen democracy, have a national assembly that would complement the role of the executive, and also give a legislative backing to some of the policies, plans, and programs that his administration intends to introduce.
Things happen in quick succession in Nigerian politics. The video is showing the senators leaving where Godsluck Pabio was making a speech to all shake hands with the president-elect. After that dinner, we also saw him introduce some of them to the president-elect in person. I just want to take you back to 2015 and the body language of the outgoing president, Muhammadu Buhari, who seemed to have said he would work with anyone who emerges winner at the National Assembly. We saw how that played out in his first tenure. What should we expect when APC makes this decision as to where it's zoning the principal offices in the National Assembly? Is this something that will be made public?
Well, it might not be made exactly public, but of course, whatever the position of the party is, will still filter to the public. We'll hear it from lawmakers because they will hear the whispers go around political circles. But, even if they cannot on their own take that decision, we expect that they would also meet with President Muhammad Buhari when he returns to the country. He would also not try to impose, but he would also guide the party through that process, because the pitfall they are trying to avoid is what happened in 2015. Like you rightly pointed out, President Muhammad Buhari was not particularly interested in who becomes the president of the Senate and who leads the National Assembly, and indeed it was also a heavy price for him to pay, because he had that rancorous relationship with the legislative arm of government. In some cases, he even had to reject some of the bills sent from the National Assembly for presidential assent. He had to throw some of those bills out, and he also didn't have a smooth sail with the National Assembly with some of his requests and bills and all of that. So moving forward, the APC has identified that as a pitfall that also they would slow down, because President Muhammad Buhari at that time used to say that one of the reasons why he could not deliver on some promises made was because of the kind of relationship he had with the National Assembly, that they were not quite supportive. So they expect that moving forward, all of those landmines will be cleared for the incoming administration of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu.
We don't expect a 10th assembly that will be a rubber stamp to the executive, but from what we've learned in the past 8 years, you will need a measure of support within the National Assembly to have your policies and your views passed in time. And, many would say that Asiwaju has learned, and being a politician himself, he might be more involved this time, unlike the outgoing president. But what do you make of the warm handshake between Magnus Abe and the Rivers State governor? Are you optimistic that that's some sort of mending politically in that kind of relationship?
Yes, we actually, even during the campaigns, the two men, Magnus Abe and Nyesom Wike, have had that mutual respect for each other, and they have demonstrated it even during campaigns. Wike refrained or restrained from calling out Magnus Abe, and likewise, Magnus Abe too, he didn't really call out Nyesom Wike during his campaign. It was when the heat became really tough, especially when it got to a few days to the election, when the political atmosphere became really charged. That was when the two men went all out and to some extent threw caution to the wind in terms of exchange and the usual quarrels between politicians and political parties. But, with Asiwaju in the picture, the two men supported Asiwaju Bola Tinubu's presidential ambition. Magnus Abe was also in the All Progressives Congress. He fell out with the party at the state level. That's why he moved to the Social Democratic Party, where he picked the governorship ticket and ran in that election, which, of course, he lost to the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. So himself and Nyesom Wike have been allies, but, fell out due to political differences. And the middle ground they have between them is Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. So it was easy for Asiwaju to be that glue between Magnus Abe and his political camp, and also Nyesom Wike and the strong political force he controls there in Rivers State. So we expect that, we expect to see the manifestation of all of these political sportsmanship on the part of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu in the coming days.
Absolutely.
During the campaign, how he played a role in uniting factions who had their differences.
I agree. Interesting days ahead, particularly as we begin to look out for how long this inter-party relationship would last. Senior correspondent Femi Akonde live for us in Abuja. Good to hear from you. Well, we started yesterday with the chronology of past leaders as we project into the administration of Bola Tinubu after the May 29 inauguration. Let's take off quickly from July 1975, the regime of General Murtala Ramat Mohammed. He joined the Nigerian Army in 1958, spent short training stints in Nigeria and Ghana, and then was trained as an officer cadet at Sandhurst Royal Military Academy in England. After his training, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1961, assigned to the Nigerian Army Signals that same year. He then served between 29th July 1975 to 13th February 1976, when he was Nigerian general who led the 1966 Nigerian counter-coup in overthrowing the Johnson Agoy-Roson military regime, and also featuring prominently during the Nigerian Civil War, and thereafter ruled over Nigeria from 29th July 1975 until his assassination on 13th February 1976. Who's next? Nigerian retired military officer and statesman Olusegun Obasanjo, who served as Nigeria's head of state from 1976 to 1979, and later as its president from 1999 to 2007, still very much alive, very much active in Nigerian politics, still wrote a letter, during the aftermath of the 2023 general election. Ideologically, they say, is a Nigerian nationalist who, of course, was a member of the People's Democratic Party between 1998 and 2015. After a short stint as military head of state, we had Shehu Usman Aliyu Shagari, who was a Nigerian politician and who was the first democratically elected president of Nigeria after the transfer of power by military head of state General Olusegun Obasanjo in 1979, giving rise to the Second Nigerian Republic. He served from 1st October 1979 to 31st December 1983, an experienced politician. He briefly worked as a teacher before entering politics in 1951, and he was elected into the House of Representatives in 1954, perhaps the first, civilian leader that we were going to have after that military stint. During the oil boom, Shehu Shagari made agriculture, industry, housing, and transportation the major economic goals of his administration. But the fall in oil prices began in 1981 and deeply affected the finances of Nigerian government. He, however, refused to embrace the structural adjustment from the IMF and the World Bank as the crisis progressed. And then he went ahead to initiate an economic stabilization program to help protect the country against a hard landing from prior highs of the 1970s and, of course, steering the economy towards positive growth. Some say that was the biggest chance Nigeria had to diversify and to look elsewhere as to what will be the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. 62 years after independence, we're still very much dependent on oil. Year after year, we're looking at indices like the global oil price, the millions of barrels of oil produced on a daily basis to determine our spending plan. We'll take a short break now, and we'll take a look at Nigeria's economy in the past 6 decades. Stay with us. Well, let's talk about Nigeria's economy in the past 6 decades and the perception of it. Judy Ologun is a PR expert, and I'm also joined in the studio by TVC business editor Tolu Ogunjobi. Good to see you, Tolu.
Good to be here.
All right, let's begin with Mr. Ologun. If you can hear me, the Nigerian experience of political leadership is perhaps where we would like to start with. The school of thought that almost none of the leaders who had governed the Nigerian nation really aspired or prepared to lead the country. It's been from one circumstantial incident to the other, except in 2015, where we had, President Buhari, who had wanted to lead this country for a long time. How much role would you say that has played in how our economy has fared in the past 60 years?
When you try to trace the economic fortunes of Nigeria, you must acknowledge the fact that when we started out as a politically independent nation, we were doing very well. And that was when we depended on not just the oil and gas, but the agricultural sector also. And at that point in time, we had regional competition, healthy for that matter, in generating wealth for the common good of citizens. And that was when we had the industrial estates, Lagos, Obakran, you had the Enugu, known for coal, you had the Granite Pyramid in the north, and of course, the revenue from the oil and gas engaged to develop the nation generally. But when we now had the intervention of the military that threw us into the civil war that ended in the early 1970s, and even with that, as at early 1970, the head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Yakubu Gowon, retired, declared that the problem of Nigeria was not money, or how to spend the money. So obviously, at that point in time, we're doing well economically. But years down the line, it appears that we have not kept faith with all the development plans.
So we had all the money at the time, I hear you clearly, but the challenge was how to spend it. Let me just bring Tolu into the conversation very quickly. The idea of dependency on oil. Ordinarily, oil discovery should be a blessing.
Yeah.
But the conversation is odd, whether it's a blessing or a curse. 62 years after, Nigeria is the world's poverty capital. With all the trillions of dollars we have made in oil, what do you think is responsible?
Well, I think planning is one of it, because the oil boom, when it came, I think our leaders got carried away and they forgot that they needed to develop that sector more. Let's start from even the host communities. What has happened to the likes of Bayelsas of this world, river states, their water has been polluted, they can't feed, they can't do all of these things. We still have long pipelines stretch everywhere where people are now using virtual pipelines. So I think we didn't develop alongside with all of the facilities and all of this, that we were getting at that point. And that is why many think that a lot needs to be done at this time. Yes, I can say that President Muhammadu Buhari did a lot, being the Minister of Petroleum. Yes, many will say they didn't like that, him taking that post, but I can tell you that there's been remarkable achievement in that sector for now. At least new basins being discovered, shift to gas, which is the way to go. So, but you see, it's a process, and it has to continue. So I think.
But what is fresh on the mind of many Nigerians is the oil scarcity of late last year. I knew there was a period of time where
and the subsidy thing
that disappeared, and the subsidy thing. So Nigerians have a short capitulation of memory.
Yes.
They can't remember what you're talking about.
You see, we'll continue to face that if we don't start to import in country. If we don't start to refine, I beg your pardon, in country. We depend on imported products, and it's affecting our currency. That's part of the reason why the naira is being battered by the day, because we don't refine here. We have to pay freight, pay in dollars, pay some government agencies in dollars. So all of these are things that the government needs to use as their quick wins. Absolutely. Address this as low-hanging fruit. Make sure the refineries are functional. Make sure that monetary policy and fiscal policy comes together, synergize. No one is hitting one person. You're not giving from with one hand and taking back with another hand. These are the important things that I think will be quick wins for the incoming administration. There's a lot of challenge. And I always like to say this. It's a global thing. It's not just a Nigeria thing. If you go around the world, most currencies are being battered at the moment. Inflation is high across the world. So when people just try to isolate Nigeria, I don't agree, because the figures would tell you that is a global issue.
The position of other people would also be that we understand the global reality, but we can manage it better.
Yes,
what we have.
That's true.
Mr. Logun, we need your expertise as a PR person, because the incoming president has been very categorical about removing fuel subsidy. He says he was going to win this election and that the fuel subsidy isn't going to stay. You know that June was the initial date, but it seems that the outgoing administration is leaving it to Asiwaju to decide what he would do with it. How do we carry the people along? Remember Occupy Nigeria in 2012. With the current economic situation, how do you remove fuel subsidy?
You know, when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu said he will remove subsidy, I think there is an expert advice that removing subsidy can be done through various options. And one of them is to gradually remove the subsidy. And the big question is that what provisions are on ground to cushion the impact? Because when you say you are removing the subsidy, that means there won't be any support from the government in the consumption of.
I'm afraid we lost contact with Mr. Logun, but he was trying to say gradual removal.
Yes, let me just take it up from here. Removal in phases. I also subscribe to that, I must tell you. Nigeria's economy, inflation is above 21%. GDP growth is it's low, and there are projections that it could even be lower. So you cannot tell me that today you sell fuel for as much as 400, 500 naira per litre, where people are still grappling to even buy at 180 naira per litre. Yes, in some states across the federation, they don't buy at that rate, but not as much as 400 naira. So I think a gradual phase removal, 25%, 40%, 50%. And the best time we would have done this was when crude was very low. But we've missed that opportunity. So let's wait for what to do now is let's start out like a phase removal while, they're also initiating stuff, so how do I put it, that can help cushion the effect. Government must do that on the side so that as you're removing it, you are bringing in gas-powered vehicles, you're making mass transit available, you are increasing salary if you can, and making things more comfortable. Let there be power supply so that small businesses will not go around carrying jerry cans. All of this, those are the things we should be looking at. And gas, again, is the way to go. And I think the president-elect said it when he met with the private sector, that is going to give incentives for people to come explore our gas because the proven and unproven reserves are just there, being fled away by the day.
Well, the conversation is moving so fast, Mr. Logun. I hope that technology can allow you catch up. But we're wrapping up now, and we're talking about the importance of appointments that would determine the economic direction of the coming administration. What do you think Asiwaju should be looking at? What kind of people should make the list?
You know, he should go for eggheads that can help him reposition this country on the path of prosperity. And he achieved that as the governor of Lagos State in identifying those who can make things happen. And it shouldn't just be political consideration. And Lee Kuan Yew adopted this style in Singapore by allowing meritocracy, those who can deliver on promises, and not just those who will be theoretical in office. Because at this point in time in our national life, we're in a very critical state, and we need performance. So he should also realize that everything that happens under his tenure will be recorded against his name as the president of the Federal Republic.
And of course, perhaps to just jump in and add that we can't wait for 6 months to identify this individual. We have to go down to Lu. But what's the fate of this demonetization policy of the CBN? The new Naira note that is due in December.
It's a big one. It's a big one because I pray we don't go back to that, the same thing that happened last year. If we don't prepare ahead of December, then we might face that same problem. But I think, according to them, they said they've taken the delivery of the new notes. We can't find them. I mentioned it the last time I discussed with one of them. We still can't find the old notes. When you use the ATMs, we still see the old notes. We can't find the new notes anywhere. So I think they need to do more work around that. Nigerian printing and minting, if they need capacity, they can improve their capacity so that they can do better. I also like that to be done in country because we need to domesticate all of these things.
Absolutely.
We can't continue to, just batter our currency. No, it doesn't work.
24 days is a long time to count down.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Ajide Ologun, we have enough time to talk subsequently. Thank you so much for joining the program tonight. And of course, my friend,
Yes.
they say we look alike.
It's good we are together on the set
it's good
today.
that so that you can tell the difference. This is Tolu. This is Nifemi.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
Good to
coming
be here.
by. All right, that's our show today. We bring you a repeat at 6 a.m. tomorrow, and we're back next week counting down to Inauguration Day. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.